Episode 162 of the podcast. This week we're talking about stubborn and other labels that we put on dogs. Are they helpful or not? Find out this week. You're listening to the Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast. I'm Chrissy Neumeyer-Smith. I'm a certified professional groomer, a certified behavior consultant for canines, a grooming instructor at Whole Pet Grooming Academy, where I also teach my online program, Master Groomer Behavior Specialist, and I'm the owner of Happy Critters in Nashua, New Hampshire. And this, my friends and colleagues, is the podcast where grooming and training meet. I pretty often hear people say a dog is stubborn. Now let's explore that a little bit because it makes a difference. Our words make a difference. So a dog being stubborn, people say they're stubborn as if it describes the situation. So does it? Now what I observe is different than what somebody else may observe. So I want you to really hone your observational skills. What I want you to think about is, what do you see? What is the behavior that we're seeing when we say stubborn? Because I don't usually see stubborn. I very rarely will agree with stubborn as the problem that we're having. I think it makes it harder for us to relate to the dog once we've put a label like that on the behavior. Because let's think about what stubborn means. I went to the dictionary. Merriam-Webster says stubborn is refusing to change an opinion or course of action in spite of difficulty or urging. It kind of implies that you know better and you're choosing to just do things the hard way. And I'm not really sure that that's what we're seeing with our dogs. So let's take a closer look. What are you seeing? What is the dog doing? What is the picture of a dog being stubborn? It may be a dog who isn't jumping into the tub. Maybe it's a dog who usually jumps into the tub and today they're not. Now I want you to think about, is this dog being stubborn because you think he knows how to and is yet choosing not to? Or should we step back from that behavior for a moment and say, you usually jump in the tub. Why are you not jumping in the tub today? Why? Let's ask why. I'm always going to be the 6-year-old who asks why. It's just part of who I am. But I want you to think about why the dog might be doing that. Because dogs usually will pick the easy way out of anything. That's generally what they're all about, the easy way. They want to do the easiest version. So if they know how to do a thing and it's been rewarded and it's been something that's pretty pleasant or not particularly unpleasant, they'll usually continue to do it for us. They're usually pretty good about it. So what happens when they decide, I'm not going to jump into the tub, and we decide that they're being stubborn? As soon as we put the label stubborn on there, I find that for many of us as humans speaking the English language, we stop thinking about, is this dog having an issue? Is this dog having a problem? And we start thinking that it's more of an attitude problem. The problem with that thought, boy, how many times can I use the word problem in a sentence, right? The issue with that is that if we are trying to figure out what the problem is, we might look beyond stubborn and say, I wonder if he's sore today. I wonder if there is something wrong that he can't jump into the tub today on his own. Or I wonder if there's something wrong, something uncomfortable, some health issue. I wonder if this dog maybe doesn't really know how to jump into the tub. Maybe they don't really fully understand what we're asking of them. In the past, they jumped up because they were following a treat, but today you ask them to just jump up and they don't know what that word means. We're more likely, if we step back and look at the behavior that we're seeing, we're more likely to find a solution set that makes sense to the dog. Because as soon as we say this dog is being stubborn, we kind of shut down the idea that maybe there's a reason. We can't help it. It's what we do. We're humans. Well, as soon as we put a label on it, it's really easy for us to stop searching for ways to make this dog more comfortable. Especially where stubborn, again, kind of implies that the dog's just giving you a hard time. The dog is making your life difficult. And okay, perhaps it is a little difficult, but it's not because dogs are planning on making your life difficult. So the labels are important. Now, there are other labels that I hear also. Let's go ahead and talk about some of those. Because my trainer brain, as soon as I hear some of these labels, instantly I start asking more questions. So here's another label that I hear. This dog is really hyper. Hyper. It kind of implies that they're out of control and spastic and, you know, all this energy and they're just jumping around all over the place. When I hear hyper, I hear active dog that doesn't have impulse control yet. I hear a dog that needs to learn how to calm down, how to be still, how to function with whatever we're doing. Because, well, as you well know, if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I have border collies. I like energetic dogs. And many people will ask me, isn't that breed hyper? And I'm like, I don't see their energy as a downside. It could be challenging. Certainly, high energy dogs can be challenging, but those are training challenges, not a personality flaw. Hyper sounds like they're just a character flaw. So it's one of those labels that I look at and say, how helpful is that for us to label a dog as hyper? So when somebody asks me about hyper, I ask more questions. Again, I'm the 6-year-old who wants to know why. So more questions. Why do you think this dog is hyper? What are you trying to tell me? Is this a dog who's constantly panting, constantly trying to spin on the table, watching everything else going on? Those are all descriptions of dogs that are very distracted and active, and, that's a training issue. So there are lots of labels that we pick. Now, when I say a dog is hyper, it also means that we're probably thinking that it's a character flaw and not necessarily thinking, oh, how do I help this dog be calmer in this situation? Calmer in this situation. Sometimes we want really active. Sometimes we want really calm. And for some breeds and for some individual dogs, calmness can be really challenging in a distracting environment, like perhaps a grooming shop or with a new friend coming over to do house call, because many dogs just see everyone as their new friend, somebody new, we're all excited. So we need to think about what we're seeing, and anytime we're putting a label on it, because I do it too. Oh, raise your hand if you've labeled a dog, because I do it too. I have to step back and say, what am I really seeing? If I find myself using a term like stubborn or hyper, I have to step back myself too and say, wait, what am I really seeing? What do I really see? What is the challenge that this dog is having? And how can I help this dog have a better time with this process? If you're enjoying this podcast, please remember to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes, and tell all of your friends. Getting into more labels, here is another one that I think is very, very common for owners to do. And, generally all of us in the dog world, I think that we see this and sometimes misinterpret it. Here is one, and that's jealous. Now, think about it. There are plenty of times that we have heard people say, oh, he's so jealous. Jealous of the new puppy, jealous of the older dog, jealous of this, jealous of that, whatever it is. But let's stop when we say the word jealous and really think about, what are we seeing? What are we seeing? Because most of the time, what I observe when someone tells me their dog is jealous of the other dog in the house, for instance, what I observe is a dog that wants to be the center of everything. It's not about I don't want that dog to have it as much as it's I want to be in the middle of everything. You have a ball, I want to be in front of you, and I want that ball. They kind of get buttoned into everything. They're in the middle of every game. They want to be the first one for the cookie. And that is a training issue. That is impulse control. That's teaching a dog how to take turns, that you must wait for your turn. Now, I'm going to say that that is not always the case, but this is one of the most common versions that I see when people say their dog is jealous. And what it is this is just a dog who's impulsive. I see a toy, I want to be there. I see treats, I want to be there. I'm just going to shove this other dog out of the way. I'm going to shove this kid out of the way. I don't care who's in my way. I'm just going to push my nose into the middle of fun. And the problem with calling it jealous is, again, then we aren't necessarily thinking about a training process to teach this dog how to wait their turn as much as we're trying to punish jealousy. And there's a slight difference. Teaching a dog to wait their turn doesn't necessarily mean that we have to tell them how bad they are. We're just going to teach them how to wait their turn. And I have a lot of this at my house. I'll tell you a quick personal story because my guys each came to me with some dog aggression issues. And integrating a dog who's almost a year older than the one I had, who came from a home where he was fighting with their other dog on a daily basis, was challenging. I had to teach them how to take turns and that no one is allowed to push in and butt into somebody else's turn. We must be patient. And sometimes that's a matter of I'm going to throw a ball to my left and I'm going to call out which dog it's for and throw a ball to my left. And I'm going to call out which dog is next and throw it to my right so that they're not interfering with each other and they're learning how to take turns. And sometimes it's dog on my left is going to get 3 balls thrown, 1 and return it, and 2 and return it, and 3 and return it. Dog on my right is now going to get 3 balls thrown, throw 1 and return it, throw 2, then return it, throw 3, then return it, to learn how to control their impulses and wait their turn. It's not usually jealousy. And so the other time when jealousy comes up is when a dog has something and another animal or person is coming over and the dog growls or walks away or wants to hold on to that object. That's not jealousy. That to me sounds more like resource guarding. That's, I have a thing, leave me alone. Now, there are ways to work on that, plenty of ways to work on that. And it depends on what the situation is, if it's an owner that they're doing that to, if it's another dog. But that's also about feeling safer with people coming over or dogs coming over while that dog has a thing. But it's not really jealousy. So, jealousy doesn't really describe what we're seeing with our dogs. And because of that, it's not a helpful label. I want you to think about helpful helpful labels. He wants to be in the center of everything and he needs to learn to take his turn. He's used to being the only dog. He needs to learn that this other dog is here too. The dog that wants to be in your lap all the time. A lot of first-time parents have a baby on their lap now, and the dog's like, I want to be there. That's been my spot my whole life. So sometimes it's a matter of us retraining and giving that dog some education on how we want them to behave. Now, in the grooming setting, we use lots of labels, and it's okay to use a label, but just be thinking, what am I really seeing? What do I observe? And how can I help this dog get closer to the behavior that I do want? So if I do want this dog to jump in the tub, maybe I need to train this dog to jump in the tub. Maybe I need to see if this dog has some sort of an injury or soreness or lameness that's preventing them from jumping in the tub today. Maybe I need to rethink how high that tub is, and maybe they cannot jump into that tub. With the jealous dog, maybe I need to look at what is the whole situation happening, and am I allowing dogs to be pushing each other around? Because our dog parents shouldn't allow dogs to push each other around. You should be thinking about, like, okay, we need to have some structure. Again, my own personal experience with my dogs. If I let them push each other around, we'd have a dog fight. They get along really, really well, but they also know the house rules are we don't get in your brother's way. So it helps us to understand what we need to help the dog with. And some of these labels are not helpful. They don't put us in a help the dog mindset. They put us in the this dog is trying to make our lives miserable mindset. And dogs don't really try to make our lives miserable. Very, very rarely are they trying to just make our life miserable for no reason at all. So be thinking about it when we hear a label and step back and go, all right, let's be more accurate about it. What am I really seeing? What am I really seeing? Is this dog hyper, or am I seeing a dog that doesn't know how to behave and is energetic? And how can I work on that? The next common label that I hear is spoiled. Oh, this one comes up an awful lot too. Sometimes we have a dog whose owner is just fawning over them. And sometimes their owners are super nervous people. They're the ones who are like, oh, I'm not sure about dropping him off. And he gets so worried. And, or, oh, I just need to be there. I need to see the whole thing. But that's not necessarily spoiled. I think the label spoiled implies that this dog has been overindulged. They're constantly getting whatever it is they want. And perhaps that is true. However, that's not the dog's fault. That is a training issue. And that dog could learn how to be a perfectly wonderful house pet and be really good for grooming while still being spoiled. I know. Everybody just pause and think about that, huh? Can they? So the thing is that we can use rewards and we can use praise and we can pet our dogs and we can still make it happy fun time. Just that we also have work to do. We have things that need to get done. Stuff and things. Lots of stuff and things. So when we see an owner who we think is spoiling the dog, let's step back and again think about that label. Owners aren't trying to make their dogs crazy. They just don't understand. And often what I find is that a lot of these owners really think that the only way to limit their dog's behavior would be to kind of break his spirit or hurt his heart, make him sad. But they don't know that there's a lot of training that they can do to make him confident, to make him really well behaved and still be just as happy. And that's kind of where modern positive reinforcement training really comes in. Like, listen, if you want to spoil your dog and you want to be your dog's best buddy, we can still do that and have a well-trained dog. So when we see spoiled as a label coming up, that tells us this is an owner who needs some help. This is an owner who needs to know more about some dog training. They need some help because they might be living with some real chaos and not knowing that there's a way to fix that without going against their own moral values. And I find that that's kind of where it comes from. It's sort of this moral values thing where they don't want to punish their dog. You don't have to punish your dog to teach your dog to be a good dog. I mean, let's just say that there are lots of ways that punishment happens out there in the real world. But if people are really, really worried that the only way to teach a dog is through punishment, well, yeah, we did that in the 80s. That's not modern dog training. Punishments are real and they happen, but if you are really against that, you can still have a totally, really, really great relationship with your dog and have a well-trained dog. You can still give them cookies. You can let them sleep on your couch. You can let them sleep in your bed. You don't need to crack down on them as if they're little prisoners. We can have fun with our dogs and still have structure. So those dogs that we call spoiled, I think that tells me when I hear it, I need to ask more about what's happening at home and help that owner find good information about how to teach their dog how to be a great dog. If you'd like more information, you can find me at Chrissy@happycritters.net, happycrittersdogtraining.com, or you can join the Facebook group Creating Great Grooming Dogs podcast or the Facebook page Creating Great Grooming Dogs. I really look forward to hearing from you.